I was lucky because, and this is kind of a weird thing to say, but I was headed down this path. I don't think I would have snapped out of it had it not been for, it was a life that I think a lot of people admired, good at school, blah, 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 all these things. But I knew it wasn't real. Like, I knew it wasn't who I was. I couldn't keep it together. Like, I was in so much pain that all that I had sort of built up that wasn't real just fell
apart.
As a man, when you're actually feeling real pain, emotional pain, it's easy to latch on to things. It's like alcohol, drugs, more girls. I knew I had to go through this pain. In a way, it's a difficult thing to share as a guy, but I could start to feel my heart again.
Welcome to the Time Has Come podcast. My name is Graham Wardle, and today I have Mark Wiebe as my guest on the show. Mark is an actor, he's a Bitcoiner, and he's also a men's coach. But above all that, he's a wonderful human being, a father, and a husband. I met Mark at a party that was a Bitcoin party. We started chatting, and I realized he is a very deep, soulful, compassionate, and powerful man. And I knew having a conversation with him on the podcast would be great. So that's what I'm going to share with you today, conversation. We talked about emotional pain, the path to authenticity, suffering, integrity, and also the inventor of Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto. Who is he? Who is she? Who are they? The time has come to welcome Mark Wiebe to the show.
Mark, how are you, my friend?
Good to see you.
Good to see you, man.
Yeah, good to see you.
Mark is also an actor, trained with Meisner technique and
Bit of everything.
Yeah.
And a bit retired.
Yeah. But I do want to cover the whole gambit with you because we've had a couple conversations now. We met at a Bitcoin party.
Yeah.
So we're both Bitcoiners.
Yeah.
And then we started talking about life, and we started talking about what you do, and you do some men's work and acting and exploring. You've had quite the journey of your life. You thought you were going to go into law school, but you've made considerable carving your own path, considerable sort of changes in your life. That's what I love to talk to people about on this podcast, is when they carve their own path and they're okay with being in the unknown. And we were talking about that the last time we chatted.
Yeah.
Was transitions and being in the unknown.
Yeah.
So for people who don't know you, what do you say when you introduce yourself, what you do and who you are?
I mean, there's always a moment where I'm like, I don't like doing this.
I know,
like
right?
This idea of like, who am I, and introducing myself,
Yeah.
Like, I think one of the things I've come to really appreciate, and I think it's why you and I like vibed right away, or at least that's how I felt when I first met you. I was like, oh, there's something different. There's a synergy, when I started talking to you. And yeah, I think it's just, I like the feeling of like, what's going on between you and me, like, okay, I could tell you who I am and whatnot. And that's a great way to, I guess, start with each other, but then I like to just feel into like, I don't care what you do, and I don't care what you've done. It's like, is there something here between us? It's like me talking to Tyrone just now. It's like, or when I just first met him, I'm like, I feel the same thing. There's something about you, something about him, where I don't know what it is. It's like a frequency that I like tap into, and I'm like, yeah, these guys get it. And there's something between us that could be something. I don't know what it is, whether it's just a friendship, a business thing, a partner, or just someone to sound off of, where you feel good when you're in the presence of that person, I do feel like I'm always, at least lately, like in a place of like, I'm trying to listen as to what's next for me. I mean, maybe you relate to this too, but when I started, I think I told you a bit about this, but like growing up, I was good at a lot of things, but I also knew that what I was doing, it wasn't authentic to me, Like, even though I was good at the grades and I was a good athlete and for the most part, quote unquote, popular, I knew that I wasn't being authentic, that I was carrying a lot of fear with me, And so me on my way to law school was just this sort of I don't know. I guess it was like looking around going, well, what do people think is important? You know, what do other people think is important? A well-paying job, you know, blah, blah, blah.
When did you start to question the sort of preconditioned path that you were on of like, good job, people consider this valuable? When did you start to kind of go, maybe there's more?
It's like in hindsight, you know, and once a person makes a lot of personal discoveries and sort of walks a path of kind of healing, change, it's easy to kind of go, oh yeah, now I know, you know, like there's something I know that's important. But at the time, like I was lucky because, and this is kind of a weird thing to say, but you know, I was headed down this path, and I don't think I would have snapped out of it had it not been for a relationship that ended. Mm-hmm. And so I, like, the first girl I ever fell in love with, and we were sort of on this path to, like, you know, get married and all this stuff. She was so in, and I was hesitant, but you know, I was involved, and then we parted, and it was enormously painful, and it caught me by surprise, like how painful it was, this parting. That really, I mean, again, this is only in hindsight that I know this, but like this construction of this life that wasn't real for me, even though it was a life that I think a lot of people admired. I said that to you before. Yep. You know, it's like, you know, good at school, blah, 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 all these things. But I knew it wasn't real. Like, I knew it wasn't who I was. Well, when this relationship failed, I couldn't keep it together. Like, I was in so much pain that all that I had sort of built up that wasn't real just fell
apart.
Yeah, it just fell. And I was, you know, I went back to stay with my folks. I was crying all the time. Like, you know, it's like out of a movie. You know?
How old were you?
24.
24, yeah.
Yeah, 24. And yeah, I remember I would walk around the lake by my house, and I would go over and over and over in my mind, what did I do wrong? You know, what did I do wrong? How did I lose this? How did I lose this? Why am I in so much pain? You know, I was trying to solve the puzzle of why am I experiencing so much pain with this? And if I could just, you know, save this relationship again, this pain would go away, you know? And again, that was at the time, but in hindsight, obviously I see that that's what was necessary for me to, you know, wake up from all that I was going through. So that was like the first major transition of my life. It's like an enormous pain, you know, at 24. And for whatever reason, somehow I knew I had to feel the pain, like that I had to go through it, you know, because for guys, I mean, I don't know. I can't speak for all guys. I grew up with 3 brothers. I grew up playing sports. You know, I grew up around guys, you know, it's like alcohol, drugs, more girls, like something to latch on to, you know, when you feel pain, like as a man, when you're actually feeling real pain, emotional pain, it's easy to latch on to things.
Yeah.
And I knew for some reason, I don't know how I knew I had to go through this pain. So it was like 24, no booze, no drugs, no girls. I didn't sleep with a girl for, I think it was 4 years, Grant, in my 20s. But I knew that I had to go through this thing, you know, go through the pain of this loss, you know, that rocked me.
Did you have a mentor or somebody that was sort of sharing that you need to go through this? Or did you just intuitively know, hey, I got to feel this pain. I'm not going to run from it, even though everyone around me in my culture and the society is giving me all these opportunities to numb out and distract myself?
Yeah, nobody guided me. Nobody guided me, and I don't even know why I knew that I had to do it, you know. I think at the time it was so intense that I was almost like discombobulated for half of it, you know, just hanging on kind of thing. In a way, it's a difficult thing to share as a guide.
Yep.
Because emotional pain, you want to be able to, like, I there's still a place in me that wants to be like, get over it. You know, like
solve it.
Yes. Yeah, like move forward. You're a man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I think there is a reality to the impact of like emotional pain that we as men, we don't want to acknowledge it, you know? And I also think that the women in our lives, or just in general. I don't think I just think that it's more profound and more painful than, I don't know what, physical, like enormous physical pain, that emotional thing, because it sort of fucks with you in every way.
But it also is character defining that way, where by going through that, the strength, at least from my own personal experience, different than yours, but my own experience with deep emotional pain, it's from that this like rootedness comes from in myself. It's like a connectedness and a rootedness and a strength, because I've been through and been with myself going through that pain and not run from it. There's like a security and a confidence in myself, because I know I faced it, as opposed to numbing out with drugs, alcohol, sex, distractions, girls, whatever. And that's why when I first met you, I was like, I like this guy, because I could tell that you had that experience in your own life. You didn't run from what you went through. And that to me it's one of the most difficult things, because nobody can see what you're going through when you're in that deep emotional pain. Nobody can see it. When you have a broken arm, or, you're all messed up, you got cuts all over your face because you're in a motorcycle accident. Hey, your buddy's gonna be like, oh man, look, you look terrible, but you're getting better. Like, that's the physical pain that it's different. Whereas the inner emotional pain, whether it be the loss of a loved one, breakup, or, abuse of some sort, that unseen pain, no one can take that from you. You have to move into that with compassion for yourself and to feel it. And like you said, for 4 years, you were going through this. And I think that is a quality that I appreciate about you and Tyrone and many others that I've met. Tyrone's behind the camera here, if anybody's wondering who Tyrone is. He was in our last podcast episode. That I appreciate about a lot of my friends, that they've been through things and they face them. And I appreciate that.
Sorry to jump in.
Yeah.
I think there's so many ways that you could describe like what that process is and what it actually does. I know for me at the time, I guess in hindsight too, but like what I remember through the process of it was, I remember the pain. I remember it changing gradually, but it felt like forever. And I remember this feeling of like, it sounds weird to say, and some of this shit is hokey to it sounds hokey, right? Because we overuse these terms. I could start to feel my heart again. Like I could start to feel what I liked, what I didn't like what I wanted, what did I care about? Like I could start to, and when I started to, I guess, communicate with other people, I could feel like I felt with you when I met you. I could feel that there was an authenticity growing, I wasn't just saying shit because someone else, or I thought it was the right thing, or, I'd read this or that. It's like I could feel my own authentic pulse, and I could start to bring it out.
Yeah.
And that I wouldn't trade for anything. Like I wouldn't trade it for anything. The money, nothing. I wouldn't trade it, because I know that whatever happens, like it went my way. Like I did it my own way. I said the things, the people, I did it my way. And if it doesn't work out, that's fine. But like, that's what I value that so much, and I think that's why, I vibed with you when I first met you, because I can feel it off people who are kind of, I felt it a lot through COVID too. It's like all the COVID stuff. I could feel there were certain people that were like, I don't know what, they were listening to their inner thing, and that was it. That's all they needed.
Yeah, that to me is integrity. That's the I learned that after going through my divorce, was the importance of integrity with myself, and how over time I had lost that connection to integrity, and that was causing so many areas of suffering for myself, because I wasn't in integrity with myself. I wasn't listening internally, and I was reacting and not listening internally to what was going on. And that's why integrity is my highest value now, because I see that as the foundation. You can be the most loving person, but if you don't have integrity with yourself, how long is that love going to last? How is this going to be sustainable in the long run?
Well, how do you think you build that? Like, how do you discover it if you don't have it? You know, like you say, it's integrity. I would use the word like I have a barometer. You know, I have my own compass that's like mine, and I just know that this is who I am. But you know, how do you get there if you don't feel like you have that, or you want that and you don't? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for me, it's like that still silent place when you're quiet with yourself, or you're looking yourself in the mirror, and you're like, you can kind of feel something's off, or you kind of feel like I shouldn't be doing this, what I'm doing right now, or I should be doing this, and I need to be doing, and I'm not. And the more you honor that little silent whispers, or the voice, however it's a feeling through my whole being. The more I honor that, the stronger my integrity gets. Also, in my outward expression, I think if I say I'm going to do something, I do everything I can to do it. That doesn't mean sometimes you don't get stuck in traffic and you have to call somebody and say, I'm going to be late 15 minutes. But it means that if I tell my friends I'm going to go hang out with them, I don't call them and go, yeah, I just don't, you know, like I changed my mind, like I'm busy playing video games and I just don't want to come anymore. It's like, well, then you should have said that at the beginning. Like, hey, I'm not sure if I'm going to come out. I'm in the middle of something right now. But I'll let you know if I'm coming out. So for me, it's like the more you honor yourself internally, your word with yourself and with others, doesn't mean you're perfect. It means that you honor it as best you can and make amends when you can't fulfill it. That to me is like a foundation. And to me, it's like a superpower. The more you honor it, the more it becomes like magical almost. So I think distractions, anything that pulls you away from that still space inside where you can feel, this is a good relationship for me. This is a good woman for me, or this is a good friendship, or this is a good job, or this is a good environment that I'm in right now. The more you can honor that feeling, and when it's telling you to leave or to get out, you honor that, even when it's scary, even when it's uncomfortable. That to me is building integrity. That to me is building that sort of compass internally. How do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, very similarly. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a way that it's, you know, I guess it tails back to a bit like what I said earlier. Like, I don't know if I would have got there without the being forced into it. Like without having that experience that was so painful that I couldn't run from. You know what I mean? Like I tried. Yeah, I didn't do the drugs and the, you know, but I wanted the pain to go away. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I say it, I chuckle a little bit when I think of like suffering, you know, like it's not funny, but like there's something about suffering that's like, it's almost like it's unavoidable. Do you know what I mean? Like there's almost a place where, I don't know. I guess I say it just because if there is somebody, if there is people, like I'm just thinking now of like your listeners, your watchers, your viewers, it's like if you are in a place where you are suffering, like I mean, it's easy for me to say on the outside, but like that is, you're in the spot that you got to be to move forward, you know, like the great change, the great discovery, or like like unearthing your authentic, your integrity, I think it's connected to suffering. I wish it wasn't, you know, but I think it is. And so and we talked about this when we had the coffee, like this idea of like rites of passage, you know.
Yes.
And how we've lost that in our society of like, what are the rites of passage for, you know, we're men. So like a young man, between being a young man and then being a man. And it's like that more ancient, you know, a more ancient practice was like, I think there was a conscious going into the suffering, supported with other, you know, by other people, you know, by other members of the tribe or whatever. But the suffering, how important it is, you know, like how important it is to transition from I don't know, like, I don't know what, it's not an innocence, but it's something to a consciousness where like you are aware, you are aware of your own humanity. You are aware how you relate to other people. And I think there's suffering in between those two things somehow. It can't just,
I agree. Yeah.
it can't just happen. And I think that's why I love certain things, like we're talking to Tyrone about the breathing, or men's groups, or I don't know, stuff like going and into the woods and being by yourself, camping, or it's like these things where we put ourselves in circumstances that are a little bit more extreme in order to have this experience where we can't
escape.
Yeah, we can't avoid it.
Yeah.
We can't evade it. We have to walk this path that is difficult.
The guy that says all of man's problems come from not being able to sit in a room alone with yourself. Something along those lines. I can't remember the guy who said it. Forgive me. But effectively what you're saying is, like, what I'm hearing you say is that suffering, or that sort of rite of passage of being in those difficult environments, is like being in a room alone with yourself, with your thoughts, with those areas that you are avoiding. And when you can fully embrace what you're feeling, and you're not avoiding things, you're not running, your emotional pain, your fears, insecurities, your doubts, you face them. It's like now all those areas that were kind of like you were spending all this energy trying to avoid, trying to not get triggered by, it's like you're facing it all these demons, all these dragons, you're looking them straight in the eye and you're facing them, and it's painful, it's scary, it's you suffer through that, but the byproduct afterwards is the peace and the grounded sense of connection to yourself, knowing now that you're not walking on eggshells in this life, you're not running around scared of what someone might say to you or what they might think of you. And also, like you were saying earlier about your feelings being more connected to your heart, that to me also opens up, my personal experience has been intuition. So the more you can allow yourself to feel the most painful things that you've been avoiding, it's like this gateway then, which is really tough because of the suffering that comes with it. But then your heart opens, and now you can feel things that you never felt before because you were closed off and shut down. And you can get good vibes from people. You can say in intuition, I should go down this path. I don't know why, but it feels like I'm just being called. It's like the subtlety now is available to you because you paid the price and you went through that suffering.
Yeah. And then you have this strange, sort of indescribable, subtle access. You know what I mean? Like you have this access to, you're in a situation, you're faced with the decision, you meet somebody new, like you have this sort of subtle access to, like, this feels right. I feel a little pull.
Yeah.
I'm going to say yes to this. Oh, this doesn't feel right. That's a definite no. I remember 5 years ago, I would have said yes to that. That's a no for me,
Yeah. And it's not logical.
That's cool. No. Yeah. And there's no playbook.
Yeah.
It's just happening.
Yeah.
It's just happening.
I'm sure you have many stories like this too, but some of my favorite stories are in life where I have no logical explanation of why I have to turn left here, but I have to turn left. I don't know why this is.
That's the gold, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that the gold?
And that to me is like what the metaphor of the Matrix is when you're dodging bullets, is like when you can start to tune into the Force, like the Star Wars or in the Matrix, where he starts to see the code, he starts to believe in himself, he can dodge bullets, he can effectively gain these superpowers. To me, it's from the heart, where you can then navigate through this reality and dodge these things that otherwise would have killed you or put you down the wrong path. Now it's like you can be like, you can see it coming. It's like, oh, that's not for me. And I can feel it. No, I'm just going to go this way. And it's like, but before, like you said, I would have gone down that path. Now it's different. And I think that is the gifts that if someone would have told me years ago that would be what my life would, be if I faced the suffering and the pain that I was feeling, I wouldn't have believed them. Because it would be too far outside of my understanding. It's like you said, you just get thrust into these circumstances of suffering, of loss, of, for me, it was divorce. That was like, okay, I have to go through this. I have to face it. And it was very, very difficult, but the gifts and the blessings are beyond what I could have ever imagined. And I'm so grateful for that. So,
what helps too is like, it helps to be witnessed.
Yes.
Like you said, like being alone in a room, like that's also powerful and wonderful, but like someone that you love and trust, which is why it's so important to have these friendships and have these connections, because when you can be witnessed in that process of like what you are going through and the way you're moving through it, and someone's saying, I see you, I see your pain, I see your suffering, and you're fucking gonna get through it, and just to be witnessed in that is so powerful, because you don't feel alone, someone actually sees me in this place and I'm okay with it. It's powerful. It can help lift,
Yeah.
through that really difficult time.
Well, can you share with people a bit about how you came to first experience this process? Because you shared with me a bit. It was in an acting class, was it not?
Yeah. I was a teacher in Toronto, and I started in like 2009. And we'll do a bit at the end there, but the it's a very simple, not unlike what we were talking about, Tyrone. It's like there's a simplicity to like breath work. There's a very simplicity to this repetition, but it's in that simplicity that you open up this world that has no bottom. You repeat back and forth something, that you can observe, and you put your attention on the other person. And then you just flip the pronoun so that you're sort of in reality of like, you're wearing a white shirt, and you would say, I'm wearing a white shirt. And it's that simple. But as you do more and more and more of it, you have to, I guess you confront all the places where as like your humanity, is like unwilling to go, if that makes sense. Like it's all the places in me that, when I started in 2009, like I started doing this, I was, I'd already done a bunch of acting, and I thought, I'm pretty good at this. I hear this is a great class. Like, I think I'm going to be pretty good at this. This looks like fun. And I started, and I struggled so much. Like, I was mostly catatonic to begin with, doing this work where I kind of like freeze. My eyes are kind of like I couldn't relax, because it's like if it was you and me, like I could sense stuff between us, but I wasn't able to access it, let alone express it, share it, and then create something, with this other person. I got very stuck, and I think that that's not just a actor thing, that's a human thing, that like we humans, we're uncomfortable. I think we're uncomfortable with our own humanity. A lot of us are uncomfortable with our own humanity, our own primal instincts. Like, I think we're shut off from most of that stuff. And I think there's a way that we judge our primalness, the place where we're Homo sapiens, the part of our brain that's like reptilian still. Like that shit, that's not going anywhere. You know what I mean? We can have all these ideas and loftiness, but a big part of who we are is primal, and this repetition exercise was, especially the way it was taught by a guy named John Riven, phenomenal teacher. He taught it in a primal way, that it was okay to feel how you felt in relation to anybody, and that it was much better to be able to access it and channel it and use it than it was to like
shove it down.
Yeah. And if I was to make like a very trite or whatever, I don't know, like simple like description of something, like for example, like I keep saying, like on a first date, two people on a first date, they're just meeting each other. Let's say they like each other, they're attracted to each other, and they're having coffee for the first time. You probably see a lot of discomfort, hidden with, how are you? Oh, okay, yeah. What do you do? I'd probably be talking to you a bit like this, Graham. Like my voice changes a little bit. Yeah, oh yeah, Like this kind of place where we're like, we're not in what's going on, because this is my theory, because what's going on is, holy this girl is hot. like this girl is fucking me up. She's hot. like that's what's going on. But you imagine doing that on your first date. You are so hot, like, right? The girl will be like, but that's what's going on. Like, for the most part, people have this, whole world that is suppressed because it's not socially palatable to actually be how I am, all the time. And I get it. We're social, you know what I mean? But if you forsake that, if you don't know it, if you can't access it, if you've never, if you don't learn this, then you're just, you're this.
To get a sense of control, but you don't have control.
You don't.
No.
But you got this.
Yeah.
How many people do you know like this? Where this is, but everything is, it's good. Yeah, job's good. Yeah. But there's no, anyways, just, a bit of a tale there, but that's kind of the premise of it. It's like accessing our deep humanity and being okay with it. Like, I never saw this show, but did you ever watch this show? I just know the premise of it, and it spikes something in me, like Westworld.
No, is that?
Yeah. You see, is it kind of like there's this sort of fantasy world and then real world?
Exactly. They import the people into the fantasy world.
Yeah, and in the fantasy world, like almost anything can happen, kind of thing. Exactly. Like that's what I think about when I think about like I can only speak as a man, but like I'm sure it's the same. It's like our humanness, our primal nature. It's like we're so capable of so many things. We have such access, so much power, but with it, there's a kind of chaos. There's a kind of like it's not neat. It's like
messy.
Yeah. It's this thing where it's primal, and and I think we all need, men and women. I can only speak for men, but men, I know this. We need a place to exercise that primal nature, whether it's sports. That's why everyone's so, why do men like sports? It's because it touches on that primal thing, but we need a place to be wild and primitive in order to be able to live in a socialized, it's counterintuitive. You gotta be able to access the crazy, the wild, the untamable in order to live amongst other people in a true way.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
I totally know.
Because I can always tell when I'm sitting across from a guy, like, and the men that I work with, if they don't know their rage. I can always tell, because there's this kind of like, but a guy who has explored his rage, like explored it, I always feel a degree of like, okay, I think I'm okay with this guy. I trust that he's not going to fucking lose it, if push comes to shove, because he knows a little bit about that ferocity in him, Same thing with whatever, sadness, fear, whatever, People who touch on their deeper instincts, they then are okay with them, It's like the pain. I'm going on and on here.
No, this is good.
Once you touch your pain, and you really have gone through something painful, it humbles you, and I'm very aware of like, oh, I feel with this person, I feel safer because I feel like they know something, and I'm not going to get blindsided by this. They didn't know that was going to happen in their life, so they just, they're going to eject on me or whatever. Like, I can feel that people have been through stuff, like you said.
Yeah, and I was gonna just add into this that I think that in many ways, society is not designed in such a way to empower individuals to get to these places in their lives, because there's much more control that you can exercise over people when they are inhibited from these areas of their life. Right? You know what I'm saying? So like,
yes, I know what you're saying.
So you can, if you condition people to not go into these places, men to not go into these deep, dark places, or this emotional pain or this rage, to see these sadness, then you can, they are like this, forced, pressurized, and you can trigger them and literally, like cattle, herd them in certain directions for power. So I see this personally, my own optimistic view of the world is, this is what I see happening for men and women. But speaking from myself and from what I'm seeing as a man, that this is the process of becoming self-sovereign, or this is the process of becoming grounded and rooted in self, is to not be triggered and condensed and pressurized down like this, so that the world and the chaos of life isn't pushing you around. There can be a storm, but you're like that tree that has these deep roots that can just bend with it as opposed to cracking and breaking. And that's why love this conversation, loved meeting you, is because this is the work that brings people, men, back home to themselves in that primal way, in that natural way, in the I believe the way we're meant to live as a whole being, as opposed to fragmented into these sections to be then controlled and exploited by powers that be with their advertising, commercials, media, whatever. And it's not easy, but I think I wouldn't trade it for anything else. It sucks, but it's like the benefit on the other side is the rootedness and the peace inwardly that no one can take from you.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't trade anything for that.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned COVID earlier. That was a big part of what gave me strength to say I'm not going to participate in this, was that going through a lot of that pain from in my previous relationship, leaving that. I was like, it gave me just enough strength to be like, I don't care if I lose my entire career, all my social media stuff and all this stuff that I've worked, my entire life as an actor. If I lose it all, I don't care. I won't let go of my integrity. I went through enough pain that it's mine and no one can take it from me unless I give it up. Mm-hmm. And I won't give it up. Mm-hmm. So it's a powerful place. And I know, like you said earlier, if somebody's going through the suffering right now, there's no pill to expedite it. There's no drug or quick fix. It's necessary for it to be difficult, because that will solidify the golden nugget that you get to keep, and no one can take it from you unless you give it away.
And it's only, you only know that it's this great gift in hindsight. When you're in it,
Yeah.
You'd rather be anywhere else, right? And I totally get that. So like, who am I to say anything, right?
Yeah.
But in hindsight, you will see it, the way that I'm sure we have, and you see it as a great gift,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't take away the difficulty of it in the moment,
Yeah.
It's awful.
Let's switch gears here and talk about how you got into Bitcoin. We met at a Bitcoin party,
Yeah.
which has some crossovers with self-sovereignty and whatnot. But what drew you to Bitcoin, and where are you now with it?
Well, I mean, I'm still hardcore. Still
hardcore.
Yeah. Still love it. Yeah. I mean, it's very much it's very similar to what we're talking about, except it's, it brought me to a study of like the bigger world. Like it intersects with everything, money intersects with everything,
Mm-hmm.
politics, geopolitics, nation states. Like it made me get curious about things that when I was younger, I was like, I want nothing to do with that stuff. I thought that is that is part of the world I don't want to know about, because I think it's just going to lead me here, there, and everywhere. I just didn't want to. But now that I'm, now that I've discovered certain things about myself, like I felt like I was ready. I think I just became ready to like now look more clearly at the world, and then that caused me to look at money and just how does money work, and just asking the question of like, how does money work is profound. And I think a lot of people resist it because, similar to what we were just talking about, it's easy to just kind of accept, especially in Canada or the United States or some Western country that's relatively stable economically. It's easy to kind of just accept, well, this is, how it goes.
Yeah.
The government, the central banks, but if you really study monetary history, read some books about it. And then for me, it was just like, think on it intuitively, like be with it intuitively. I started to think about like why I was drawn to this thing. Once I learned a bit about Bitcoin and put some time into it, it became very obvious to me, like I want to support and be involved in a monetary system where the rules are the same for everybody. Like, that just really appeals to me, that no one can control it, no one can change it, and the rules stay the same. To me, I was like, that's the kind of money I want to be involved in, because it's not someone else's money, and no one else is going to make decisions about it. Once it's mine, it felt a lot like what we just talked about. It's mine. I feel like it's mine, and I feel empowered by it. No one's going to change it. So I'm good. I'm good with this. This feels like how I want to operate. So that's kind of what drew me to it. And and I think it's on the heels of this thing inside of me where I was like, I want to cultivate my own intuition, my own compass. And that's what I want to lead with, And so I think it just was a perfect sort of match. To suddenly I'm like, this money makes sense to me. No one's going to fuck with it. It's a fixed amount. Once you're in this world, it's like the rules don't change. I'm like, this makes sense. This makes sense to me. So I think that's how that marriage sort of happened. And I've been fascinated by it ever since. It's kind of put me down the rabbit hole, of like politics and geopolitics. And it's fun. It's fun. It's interesting. The number goes up as it I think is supposed to, as more and more people get educated about how the money system works and start to choose between one set of rules or another. I dig it. And not unlike, I think I said this to you when we were in coffee. I don't know if I did or not, but not unlike the people from my repetition class, like I started in 2009, the people that stuck with that repetition class, through a number of years and through the difficulty of the process and sort of come out the other side, to a person, I like them, like I enjoy their presence. I enjoy their company, and, maybe not to a person because I don't know that many Bitcoiners, but for the most part, when with Bitcoiners, I feel this kind of like thing of like, you're kind of on the level. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of, there's no fluff. There's this kind of simplicity of like, I don't know, Bitcoiners just have this kind of thing of like, I don't know what it is. There's shared.
Yeah, I've experienced that as well. And the one thing that I'm guessing now, but I think something along the lines of, because of the, I wouldn't say suffering, but the work that goes into, and also the resistance that comes for a lot of people when it's like trying to explain it to other people or trying to figure out the technology of the cold storage and the politics of, politicians saying it's, not green. And so all the attacks to be able to weather that storm, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt, that it attracts a quality of person if you've made it and you're still with it.
That's resilient.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of other coins out there, thousands of other coins that you could buy instead. That, if you're just trying to get rich real quick, you'll jump into. But
in some ways, BTC has the most integrity. The way that it was created, launched, the way that the creator disappeared, like the whole thing is just teeming with integrity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
the split in 217. The way that the UASF, like the way that the community stood up and was like, we're going to support this more decentralized, the fight to make it, a money that wasn't going to be corrupted,
And that to me is what attracted, was the values. And I've said this publicly before. I said, I like Bitcoin the most, but if the values and the culture change around it, then I'm out, because it has to align with that decentralized, self-sovereignty, personal responsibility, all these things that I'm like, this is what I see coming, because as a human species, we have to keep growing and evolving. And these are the areas of our lives that we need to step more into. And here's a technology and an implementation of this technology that aligns with those values. So I see that connecting. However, if for some reason it loses that track, then I'm not married to it in that sense. It has to be.
And you'll know.
And you'll know. and you'll know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the cool part too is that, and I've discussed this on actually a BTC pod with a cool guy, John Vallis, is that when a person starts to embrace, like in a way, like when you start to learn and embrace what Bitcoin is, it's this weird, it percolates in your life. Like it that people talk about time preference, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you know, and this is a concept that sounds very simple, but it actually is quite profound. If you know that the value you have and that you're earning is going to increase over time, it really makes you decide like what's important in your life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that alone reminds me of like what we were just talking about. Once you have this sort of compass, integrity, basically what you're good at is you're good at saying, this is what I value in my life. I value these kinds of relationships, this kind of work, this food, this is what I value, you know? And when your money appreciates over the course of time, slowly, you start to go, do I really need this in my life? Because if I hold off on this purchase, like 4 years from now, I could upgrade to this, you know, and it keeps making me refine, like, what do I value?
Yes.
You know, like, do I really want to spend on this? Like,
Yeah.
normally I would, but now I know that there's a good chance that this is going to be more valuable in 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And this is actually what's really important to me, you know, like,
It would be like a tree that's bearing fruit. And for instance, in this metaphor, if you were to harvest the tree, cut it down and, you know, burn the wood or whatever, then that's one thing. But if you were to if you didn't need it right away, you could let it bear more fruit, grow more trees, you know, and
bigger, thicker branches.
And the reverse of that is the fiat world, the paper money world, which is if you don't use it now, it's going to be worth less in the future. So buy now, even if you don't want it, even if you don't need it, use it because it's going to be gone.
Yeah.
So it creates this scarcity mindset, this anxiety, this pressure. And it
incentivizes consumption. It incentivizes a materialism.
And it detaches you from, like what we were just talking about, that real value. What do I actually value? So it basically, it is encouraging you to not listen to that and to do this. Yeah, exactly.
Let me spend, let me buy. Like, what's the next thing that I can fill?
Yes.
Right? As opposed to, I feel full. I don't need anything. I don't need much.
Yeah.
I don't need much to be happy. This feels good. Like, I can wait. I don't need to buy this toy, this, you know, it doesn't give me true, like, fulfillment.
Mm-hmm.
And then we start asking, like, what really matters? What really matters to me, you know? And that's the question of, like, that creates a quality in our lives. Does this really matter? Does it really matter to me that I'm hanging out with these people on Friday night? Not really.
Mm-hmm.
You know? What really matters? It's cool. It's a really cool way of, like, distilling down my life so that, I'm using my time in the way that I like, that feels really good to me, you know?
Yeah. I want to ask you one quick question because I know one of the friends I have was concerned about the fact that Satoshi Nakamoto, that nobody knows who he is. Mm-hmm. And so I said, I actually think that's a great thing, because if you had somebody who, like a Craig Wright, who was like, oh, I'm the real guy of Bitcoin, and I'm the one who made it. And so now you have a leader, so to speak, you know, an ego and somebody that then people will go, oh, well, you created it. Like, what would you do?
Yeah.
And by walking away from it, and nobody knows if it was, you know, one individual or a group of individuals, but they just walked away. And correct me if I'm wrong, the original wallet of Satoshi hasn't, none of the coins, there's still coins there,
a million coins,
but they've never been moved.
Yeah, never been touched.
So for yourself, obviously this is not a concern for you, that you don't know specifically who made it. Why isn't that a concern for you?
I mean, I think because, like what you just, you know, spoke of, if this person was known, you know, if this person was a figure, if this person wanted credit, do you know what I mean? Like, then I guess I would see it more as a fallibility to to the software itself. It's like, but because they created something like true innovation, and they just released it to people, and knew that there was going to be a group of people that would shepherd it, you know, and that making changes to it was going to be very difficult, you know, and it had to be a bunch of developers, a group of people that had to make these decisions, that was going to be very hard to change it, and that, you know, pulling himself out of it and not touching the coins, to me, it's like, I mean, I don't know, it's intuitive.
Yep.
You know, like I had a very intuitive feeling about Bitcoin when I started to study it. It's also one of the most badass things. You know, this guy built this thing that's unbelievable, and he has untold wealth that he's not touching. You know, I don't know. It feels to me like a gift.
Yep.
You know, that it was given to other people, and it's like, until something changes, not unlike what you said, until you know, this is it.
Yeah.
You know, if someone was to move those coins, or if someone was to come out, you know, or even this idea of like finding out who it is, like, I don't care. You know, those coins haven't moved. This protocol has survived like a very difficult first decade. I don't think it can be killed now. It's like, and it's a mind virus, you know, it's an education piece. People are starting to wake up to the importance of a fair money.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know. Like, can this train be stopped now? I don't know.
I agree with you. I don't think it can. I think the cat's out of the bag, and especially, you know, people like yourself and many others that I've talked to that are very educated about this. And I think it kind of goes back to also the internal game, like we were talking about earlier. Once you have that internal knowing and that being through the suffering, going through the pain, no one's going to fool you. Again, do this again.
Yeah.
It's like someone trying to get you to take the fiat again. You're like, I know this is garbage. I can't go back.
Yeah.
So even if they ban it or whatever and try and get rid of it, the amount of people that have now understood the value of a decentralized money that's not controlled by anybody, that mind virus, you can't take away. It's out there now. And I think one of the biggest moments for me was when I was talking with Ben Perrin about shrinkflation and how this sort of like fiat concept of money that's fake has permeated and infected and cheapened so much of our lives, where, you know, companies are trying to figure out how to, you know, make the ends meet in their business. They're like, well, we have to put less chips in the bag, because if we charge more, then people are going to pick the cheaper bag, even though there's less chips in there. So we have to find ways to do this. And this is all because of the money being corrupted.
We'll degrade the ingredients. We'll degrade the quality
just like
of the food.
Just like you degrade people. Just like you cut the health of somebody down, you detach them from their own emotions, their own feelings, so then they can be controlled. It's like it all relates to, this is what I see, is the money too. It's like, because people were detached from their integrity and their own self-sovereignty internally, they were able to then push on fake money. And that fake money then went into our food and our music and our art and our entertainment and all these different areas of our facets of our life that degraded. We lose the structural integrity of it. And now we're witnessing the collapse of all these systems. I do agree with, you know, a lot of what people say with fix the money, fix the world. However, I would say if we don't go internally too and stop doing this, then we will get duped by a new shiny Bitcoin, a new scam coin that comes out, because we haven't done this work. Then we're just trying to be safe with this new system, this new money system. Oh, Bitcoin, that's it. Okay, sure, I'll go into that. Oh, I keep my coins in the exchange. Sure, I'll do that. Well, you're gonna lose them. They're gonna shut. You know, there's gonna be a trap that you fall into. So to me, I love it, but it has to come back to, like what we were saying earlier, is your internal journey, your soul's path of growth and contribution on this planet. That to me is primary. And then you will be shown the Bitcoin. You will be shown the relationships. You will be given the opportunity to invest in these things or to meet these new people. It shows itself to you, but it's here first. Then
I
this.
get what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying?
And I think over the course of, because it's so new, like I think over the course of decades, you know, if this monetary system continues to grow, continues to spread, continues to create in the society, people will more easily
I agree.
start to go, now what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now what?
Yeah.
Now, if I'm not worried about like surviving, then what's important to me now?
Mhm.
You know? And I think there'll be this natural sort of migration towards like
Being able to ask those questions.
yeah,
Yes.
have the time to ask those questions, but also know that they value, like a lot of Bitcoiners, I notice, value relationships, value family, because there's a place in them that knows that, okay, money, like I'm sorting out the money. I kind of figured it out, you know. I think I'm good. I think I'm going to be good over the next 10, 15 years. I think I'm okay. What do I need the money for? You know, like what am I chasing? You know, with this big job or this, it's like, if you keep asking, like, what do I want? What do I want? What do I want? Eventually, I think, you know, and not everybody's the same, but I do think there's a universality to our humanity. Eventually, I think people end up with like, they want to feel a kind of love with us, other people. They want to feel connected. They want to feel like the people I'm with, they see me. I feel good around them. I care about them. They care about me. There's joy. Like, I think that's where people end up, you know? And I think I don't know the studies, but, you know, people at the end of their lives, that's what they sort of refer back to. I wish I had done more of this. And it's always about the relationships in their lives. You know? Yeah. They want to be able to have, you know, and to have those relationships, Graham, it's like, it requires us to face ourselves, you know, like to really relate to somebody else. You have to have a kind of, I don't know what it is. Like, you have to have a integrity, a peacefulness. You have to feel okay with yourself. You know, you got to be able to like see somebody, relate to them. So
I think I like what you said there, and I think you're right, because I've seen that many times in my life where I've been exposed to a higher quality of nutrition or food or supplement or a person, and it inspires me to want to grow into more of that in my life. So I might not know what that's all about or what's going on with this, but I know there's something there. So what you were saying earlier about maybe somebody hasn't, you know, done a lot of this work to move, but they're exposed to Bitcoin. They're exposed. It's given them the opportunity to ask deeper questions or to seek out more nourishing friendships and relationships and food. Then that process kind of feeds itself in an upward spiral of sustainable, you know, living, which I think is great. I want to jump to two more questions here for you, and then I want to do some repetition. So my favorite question to ask people, because of this podcast, is the time has come and it's about stepping off into the unknown and carving your own path in life and really having that courage to face these demons, face these areas of our life that are challenging. For myself, I've always been curious how people experience guidance in their life, how they experience that call, that pull to go left. So for Mark, I don't remember if you've told me if you're religious or you have a belief in God or a higher power, but how does Mark know this is the path to take, or this is the step to take? Might not know where the path is leading, but how does Mark discern and feel guidance in his life?
Yeah. We talked a bit about this over coffee, but I think that just like having the desire to feel guidance, like just to have the desire, you know, just to want to feel led, want to feel like there's something intuitive, there's something I can hear, there's something I can listen to, feel, like that's a great start. Like, even if you're somebody that you like, this sounds like a different language, you know, like what are these guys talking about, the guidance or whatever, but just to want to feel like imagine if you could feel that you knew something was going to happen before it happened. You know what I mean? Like, people make movies about that kind of stuff where it's like the guy can see the future or whatever, but like, I think that's what guidance, intuition, integrity, a sense of self, you know, is. There's a place where we know things. And there's no reason why we know them. There's no calculation. You just know. And it doesn't happen all the time, and it doesn't happen for everybody. And it happens more in certain times in life than others. But just knowing that that is possible, even if you don't have it right now, like that's a great start, you know? I mean, I think I'm at a certain point in my life where it's different than it used to be, you know? I think there's certain times in life that maybe the transitions are more intense. But, and this is something I said to you over coffee, it's important, I think. Again, I don't claim to know any of these answers, you know, so I love the question, but like, you know, like giving an answer is just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, like I want to share, but I know that I don't know, you know? Like I really know that I don't know, and that's a big part of this guidance thing is like the humility to be like, I don't fucking know. Like, I don't know, Graham. I don't know the answer to what you're asking, but I know there's an answer and that each person can access it, you know, but I don't know how. Like some people will access it by, I don't know, learning to surf and suddenly feeling like the power of the ocean and the way I don't know. Some people will access it by playing the flute, you know, and some people will do it by walking in I don't know. Everyone can do it somehow. But a way in, yeah, I'm not sure. My way in, I think, I got a few different ways in, I think. But I said this to you at coffee, like, I think part of what's important is that you need guidance in order to get guidance. Like, I think there's a way that you need guidance. In other words, like, if I know that I'm kind of like phoning in my life, you know, like I'm not being real, I'm pretending, I betray myself a lot. I do stuff that I don't really want to do, but my parents want me to do it, and my coworkers think that it's blah blah blah, and I'm constantly sort of, I don't feel my own barometer, you know, then there's this weird way where like I can't get the guidance because I don't fucking need it. But if again, this is a trite example, but if I'm like, I'm taking a month off and I'm going to pack a bag and I'm going to go, I don't know, climb. I mean, I'm very uncomfortable. I'm going to Nepal because I'm going to climb. Again, this is a cliche, right? But I'm going out of my comfort zone to do something that I think there's something there for me. It's going to be hard for me. There's going to be struggle. There's probably going to be some pain and difficulty. But in that process, like, I need some guidance. You know what I mean? Like, there's this girl and she's at this coffee shop and I like her, you know, but I always get so jittery when I'm ordering my coffee, and it's like, I need some, you know, again, trite example, but like, I need a little help, you know? And if I can feel that place of like, I'm a little afraid, I don't really know if I can do it. I don't think, in fact, I'm almost sure that I don't have it in me to do this thing, you know, this public speaking class or this whatever, where I'm afraid. I'm drawn to it, but I don't think I can do it. That's the place where I think guidance can step in. There's like a space there.
So you make a space for it. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
like
you're
you have
taking
to.
a risk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're taking a risk that is legit. It's not, you're not driving your car along you're taking a risk that's like internal. You're uncomfortable. You're drawn, but you're scared. You know what I mean? Like, it's this emotional landscape where you're kind of fucked up and unsettled. And in that place, you're going to need a little help, you know? Like, you're out on a limb asking this girl, like, hey, can I take you for coffee? Like, you need some help there. So I think it's the risk. Like, if there's a risk that you feel drawn to taking, to just go for it. Like, take that chance, you know, take that class. I don't know, talk to that person. Like you and me at the party, you know?
Yeah.
I looked over at you and like, and I could hear your voice, the way that you spoke. I was like, there's something different, a little different about you. And I was like, I'm going to reach a little bit. I'm going to reach out to you a little bit just to take this feels like I should, you know?
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know. I think that's it for me. It's like just that little sense of like, I need to take a risk here. And when I feel the little nudge, this little nudge of like flow. I don't know what it is. Little flow. I'm like, go
with that.
follow it. Just follow
Okay.
it. Say yes to it. Go.
Yeah.
You know, but
Nice.
that's what comes up.
Yeah, no, thanks, Mark. I appreciate that. I'm fascinated with it because it's so hard to explain. And I think it was Joseph Campbell who said, you know, the best things to talk about are the ones that you can't put into words. You know, it's super hard to put into words these concepts, and obviously it's a very difficult question. That's why I like asking it, because it's fun to try and get at it. But I ultimately do agree with you that it's, to some extent, it's fun too, but then it's actually just taking the action. It's going up and talking to that girl. It's feeling it and moving into it and not thinking about it, being like, oh, this is guidance. I need to do this. I need to do this. Not following 10 steps or whatever. It's about your relationship to that moment and what's coming up for you.
And Graham, there's a certain suffering involved. Like going back to our previous conversation, there's a certain suffering involved in like doing something that is you're uncomfortable with. I don't think I can do it.
Here we go.
There's a certain kind of, you know, you have to have a kind of, there's a suffering. Like it's difficult. It's uncertain. You know, you're out a bit on a limb, and it's like there's a risk you could lose something. But in that place, you cultivate this. I don't know what it is. Confidence. Like, okay, she told me no. That was really embarrassing.
Yeah.
I'm never going in that coffee shop again. I could do this again. I survived that shit.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Yeah.
You know, then the next time, you know, or whatever. It's like there's a thing that happens. Learn to sort of follow those risks.
We're getting eaten alive by these mosquitoes out here. For those people who are just listening to the podcast, there's mosquitoes just all over the place. Thanks, Mark, for sharing that.
Did you say one more?
One more question for you. So I ask all my guests this magic painting question. So I was on set years ago, and we were bored before everyone had cell phones, and this question popped into my mind, and it's a fun one. So it's if Mark, if you had it in your house with your family there, you have a big wall, maybe a nice wall for a painting. You got a magic painting on this wall, and anytime you looked at this magic painting, you could feel any feeling you wanted to feel to any degree that you wanted to feel it. What feeling would Mark choose, and what would be on your painting to represent that for you?
Jeez. A little bit like what we were talking about before we started with what I was saying with Tyrone, like this feeling of surrender, you know, like a letting go. And in that, there'd probably be like, I don't know, like a deep sorrow, but in the sorrow, there's deep joy. Like, like there can be a deep joy in sorrow and a deep sorrow in joy, you know, something but that I'm surrendered to it. So I don't know. The painting would be kind of like some falling, you know, like some kind of a falling. I'm falling. People are falling. There's this sort of plunge. There's this letting go, you know.
And the feeling is like sorrow and joy,
like
and
a deep sorrow and a deep joy intermingled, you know, like intermingled. It's like, I think in that place, I think it's like this incredible surrendered sort of divine place, like surrendered, you know. I had like one of my dear friends during COVID, he passed away, and you know, it was just a deep loss for me, you know. He had this incredible humor. I felt I felt like we were kin, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah, and he died, and it was tragic, and it was the first time as an adult like that I lost somebody really close to me, and in the subsequent weeks and months, talking about guidance and, you know, divinity, it's like he would show up in my dreams, and it was though like we were with each other, you know. We'd like be walking in Toronto like we used to do, like we just go on like 3-4 hour walks and talk shit, and he could just talk to anybody, and it happened to me a few times, you know, in the weeks and months after. And there was just like one dream where like he came to me, we talked, you know, it was so real when when I would talk to him in the dreams. It was like it was happening again. You know, it's like I knew him again. And one time, I can't remember how did it go? Oh yeah, I was talking to him in the dream, and I felt afraid, you know, because there was something I was going to say to him, but I didn't want to say it in the dream, you know. And I'm sitting with him, we're talking or whatever, and I said to him, like, and I was scared, and I was like, I'm scared that you're a ghost and you're gonna go again. You know what I mean? Like that this is a dream. Like there was some part of me that was aware this was a dream, it wasn't real, you know, and that you're a ghost, you know. But I didn't want to say it to him because I was like, I didn't want to. I don't know. I'm talking to him.
Yeah.
It's like this guy that I love, you know, and he looked at me the way he the way he was, like he had this incredible sense of humor. And he was like, "We're all ghosts." It's like, don't you know we're all ghosts? And it was like, you know, I woke up and I had the tingles up and down my body. Like it was like my whole body was just vibrating, you know, with these sort of tingles. And he left in the dream, and when he left, he transformed into something. I don't know what. It was like a deer, or I don't know. He shifted right into a different dimension in the dream. And it was, to me, I don't know, again, none of this stuff makes sense. There's no rules, right? There's no playbook. But like for me, like he was saying to me, like, guy, that's not what you think.
Yeah.
Like life is not what you think.
Yeah.
Whatever you think it is, it's not that. Like it's this thing that's changing. And I'm turning into a deer, and I'm going into this other dimension, you know? And like, and the feeling I had was like, you got to let go, you know, like you're not, you can't, you know, be the person you are, but like, you got to let go. You got to feel into, you know, and I think that's why you asked that question, like this thing of like following, you know, kind of like letting go.
Yeah.
It's like, if I can let go, if I can learn to let go and like listen, follow the guidance, like I'm going to be okay. Like what else? Like what else is there? Like, you know, he fucking told me everybody's a ghost. It's not what you think it is. And then he turned into a deer and he went to a different dimension. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, he's trying to tell me like, guy, let go.
Yeah.
It's going to be fine.
Well, that's it, folks. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Mark, thank you for being on the show, my friend. I really, really do appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your insights, your stories, your knowledge, your wisdom, but most of all, your heart and your experience of life with everyone here. I really do appreciate it, and I know many of you out there probably really enjoyed our conversation. So if you did, please drop a comment below and let me know what you liked most, what you didn't like, what didn't resonate, what did resonate, what made you laugh. Maybe it was the mosquitoes. We were swatting mosquitoes this entire episode. Whatever it may be, please share your feedback below in the comments. I really do appreciate it. I want to thank each and every one of you who has donated to my podcast through my official website to make this show and this episode possible. I couldn't do it without you, so thank you so much for your donations and your contributions. And even if you're not donating and you're sharing the podcast, or you're sharing it with a friend or a family, or you're just putting a comment down, it really helps this show grow and this message spread. So thank you so much for the support that you give me and the show and all the guests that I have on the show. I want to do one little quick PSA about scammers. I try to do this more often. Be aware of scammers in the comments. Be aware of accounts that say Graham Wardle private channel fan page or Graham Wardle management team. There's a whole bunch of variations of this, but they're all scammers. They normally put like a blue check mark in their profile photo, or they have an old photo of me, or they have a new photo of me. I only have my official accounts. I don't have secondary accounts that I reach out to people privately with, so those are all scammers. The newest tactic the scammers have employed is where they pretend to be cybersecurity experts to get you your money back from their friend who scammed you pretending to be me. So they're always thinking of new ways to try and scam people. So if you can, just take a breath, take a pause, step back and go, wait a second, how do I know this isn't a scammer? How do I know this isn't an AI version of Graham talking to me? They've cloned his voice. They could do that now. They could literally take all my podcasts, clone my voice, and make voice clips, recordings, and send them to you. So it sounds like me. So you got to be very careful out there. We're moving into a world with this artificial intelligence and these image creation tools and voice cloning tools, deep fakes as they call them, where you can never be too sure. So I always assume that it's a fake. And before I put in any personal information or enter any passwords or click on any links or send anybody money, I always double check and make sure that this is the real person. And I also give it some time too. If it's late at night, you know, you're a little sleepy, it's where they get you. So be aware, be careful, stay vigilant, and look after each other. If you spot a scammer, report them. Let other people know as well. All right, my friends, that's it. I'm getting eaten by mosquitoes out here. I'm out of here. See you next time.